Nigerian citizens have been facing untold hardship since President Betta Tinubu took over the helm of affairs. With that being said, Nigerians will be looking forward to policies and strategies the president's cabinet will implement to ease the pressure on the people. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Betta Edu, says the federal government is committed to lifting 133 million Nigerians out of poverty. Speaking in Abuja on Monday at a meeting with heads of agencies under the ministry, Edu said this will be achieved through different interventions and initiatives aimed at reducing poverty. The minister, who just assumed office, assured Nigerians of her determination to ensure transparency and accountability during her tenure. Joining us on the morning show to discuss her plans is Betta Edu, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. Good morning and welcome to the morning show, Dr. Edu. Congratulations on your inauguration and swearing in.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Excellent. All right, very straight to the question with regards to your plans and your administration's plan, this administration's plan to lift 133 million Nigerians out of poverty. Recall that for a number of Nigerians, this is a bit, it's a sore spot for them because the last administration promised to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. Instead, 133 million Nigerians were lifted into poverty, multidimensional poverty. So share with us your plans because poverty alleviation is one of the key areas of this administration's promise.
Thank you very much. So first, I want to be very clear on this. I know for the last probably, I would say a bit above 36 hours, it's been trending everywhere. And of course, people are saying, oh, it's government again. They're back with the same story. We want to lift 133 million persons out of poverty. But one thing I have to say today is, number one, Nigeria would not go under. Nigeria would not go under. The SDG goal says we must eradicate poverty by 2030. And we as a country cannot be setting a target to go lower than what SDG has put on the table. But beyond that, there's a commitment by President who understands poverty and what it means to eradicate poverty completely out of a nation. And like we said, we would be unveiling our full plans to Nigerians. And we want Nigerians to go along with us. This is going to be an administration that we will speak to Nigerians, we will communicate through every means possible, we'll be very transparent, we'll count the numbers together. Remember, we have people who are living under $1.95 a day. And this is unacceptable to the president of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And he has said, I am committed to ensuring that this narrative changes for Nigerians. Of course, several methods are going to come on board. We'll expand on some of the programs that the former president has done. We have programs under the NSIP, that's other programs that have to do with improving and increasing the social net, ensuring that people have equity wherever they are, ensuring they have access to basic things which can help them pull through life. Investment, social investment into micro, small and medium-scale enterprises will be some of the things which we hope to roll out. Job opportunities for people, beginning with jobs in the humanitarian sector all the way into other forms of job. Building the base, which is ensuring that we move from a certificate-based economy to a skilled-based economy, where we build skills of Nigerians, whether young or old, people who are poor, vulnerable, and deprived, and we put them on the right track to be able to afford. Ensuring that we end hunger is part of ending poverty. It's part of poverty alleviation. And these are points of which we are committed to.
Dr. Edu, thank you very much. It still sounds very vague, the details. So immediately, what will you do? Because they sound like promises during the campaign period, and that's very fine. But now that you've taken on this office, first quick wins in your capacity as Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation in terms of addressing poverty? Quick wins.
So the first thing we want to do is to verify the social register. right? And while we're verifying the social register of those who are truly poor, working with the state governments and the local governments to verify the entire social register of this country, we must get a database, a base upon which we are going to do the work. And we will put this out there to Nigerians so that they can hold us accountable for getting these persons out of poverty. While we are at that, we'll be in the consultative mode, getting across to Nigerians at all levels, from the top all the way down to the people who we intend to reach at the lowest cadre of society. And these consultations is important so that we can understand their felt needs and how exactly we can structure our programs to be able to get all the way down to the grassroots. We have a total idea, which is according to the action plan of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It's already fully written. However, implementation failure will arise when it is not domesticated and owned by the context where we'll be implementing on. So we need to have that interaction with the people who we need to serve. That way we know the best method to reach them and serve them appropriately. While all of this is going on, we are going to be interacting with our development partners and coming up with protocols, especially as it concerns setting up a humanitarian protocol for Nigeria, which is one of the things we will be doing. We'll also be working with our development partners and the private sector to see how we can collaborate on the poverty alleviation. So for us, we are beginning with that consultation and then, of course, verifying and improving the social register that we already have in Nigeria.
Brilliant, thank you.
All right, Dr. Betta Edu, some people will say because of the situation, congratulations might not be in order. We wish you best of luck will be a more appropriate set of words to use, because if you do well for Nigeria, I guess Nigerians will be appreciative and the next generation will be thankful for whatever work you do. Now, let me ask you this. Hajia Sadiya Umar Farouk, who was your predecessor in office, sat on several press conferences and said they're going to lift many Nigerians out of poverty, but rather more Nigerians have dipped into poverty during the era of former President Buhari. In this season, the question is being asked, will you look at the amount of money, and we're talking billions of naira that was said to have been spent by the ministry you're not superintending over? That money, will you look at it and say this is what it was spent on? Because Nigerians are asking questions and they're concerned that every single time we end up in a situation where we say, oh, don't look back, let's look forward. But we dip ourselves into more trouble every single time. I remember that some people said, oh no, may Jonathan never happen to Nigeria again. Then Buhari came. And now we have a situation where we're now praying that may Buhari never come. Rotus just left his seat here and talking about how much trouble we got into during Buhari era. And we know how much was spent during the era of the former poverty alleviation minister. So tell us, will you look back at what was done by your ministry so that you can now look forward to make sure that the errors and mistakes of that time will not be repeated?
So we didn't have a minister for humanitarian affairs and poverty alleviation. We had a minister for humanitarian affairs, disaster management and social development. Poverty alleviation was introduced by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and this is because of the emphasis he wants to put on poverty eradication in line with the SDG goals to end poverty by 2030. History is important because it shapes where your present is and what the future should look like. We would be looking at what was implemented, how it was implemented, the challenges they faced, the setbacks, and why certain things were not achieved. And then, of course, what was successful and what can we build on. All of that will be brought into consideration. Right now, what we're doing at the ministry is having presentations from the different departments, units, and agencies under the ministry. And then, of of course, at the present, what are those quick wins from the short-term goals, the immediate goals, of course, the short-term goals, medium-term goals, and the long-term goals? How do we intend to reach these people, and how do we intend to reach them in such a manner that they know that they have been reached, and Nigerians can truly say that poverty has been eradicated? Remember, it takes a determined mind, it takes a good energy, innovation, speed, and of course, it takes that goodwill, that political goodwill of Mr. President, the governors, and those at the local government to drive all the policies which we'll be bringing on board. And so this is another opportunity to say, look, it's our thing. It's not one person's thing. All of us to work together to achieve this.
Okay, sorry to interject. I'm just wondering, some months ago, not too long ago, Nigerians were at that point where we thought things could not be worse. But within the last 2 months, things have become worse. More people have dipped into poverty. People in the farms are not able to work. Farms are being shut. Businesses are shutting down because of the issue with currency, because of the issue with petrol, and a number of other issues. So poverty is real today. So what will be the first 2 things or 3 things that you're going to do to begin to lift them out? Because if we talk of theory from now till tomorrow, we will not get anywhere. 3 things or 2 things, or even 1 that you know will change the lots of Nigerians who are at the bottom of the rung. What would you do?
So like I said, the very first step is to verify who needs this intervention. We must get the basis right. So we must develop and own our social register from the federal all the way down to the local government level. That's the first step, because if we do not know who we are intervening on, it's a waste of our time, it's a waste of our energy. We'll have nothing upon which to act and say, this is where we were and this is where this is what we have achieved over this period of time. That's number 1. Secondly, like the government has said very clearly, we have a situation where the fuel subsidy was removed. Right? And different other things would have to be subsidized now with the removal of the fuel subsidy, beginning with the social investment programs, conditional cash transfers will begin to happen. We've seen all of this being planned over time. And then, of course, the government is working assiduously with World Bank and several other key stakeholders to ensure that this happens almost immediately. This in some way will cushion the effect. Education is one of those things. So when we're saying conditional cash transfers, we are attaching it to something. So we want to have evidence. Is it for the education? Is it for healthcare? Is it for subsidizing feeding? That's nutrition. What are the things that have been attached to it? So these are plans that are underway now. We will be launching the full intervention almost immediately, and when we do so, you will have the full details of all we'll be doing within the next 60 days, within the next 80 days, within the next 100 days to truly take Nigerians out of poverty. These numbers will be verifiable numbers, not numbers that you are thinking, did it happen, did it not happen? The people, it will be out there for everyone to go and verify at their own pace. So it's a business of transparency, accountability, and Nigerians should hold us responsible for it.
Okay, Betta, I think I have not said congratulations. This is Rufai speaking here. I have not said congratulations to you officially, Betta. Good to see you again. Congratulations to you, Honorable Minister. I wish you well.
Thank you.
And good to talk to you again. But Betta, a couple of things.
Thank you.
Number 1 will be, you talked about the social register. Betta, would you probe the social register? Because it's faulty. Although the World Bank has defended the government, but people like Governor Soludo and other people are saying that social register is faulty. Would you probe the social register? And would you also probe the National Safety Net Office? That's number 1. Number 2. Number 2, let me just ask the second question. Would you also probe your predecessor? I know it's a tough one for you. So would you also probe your predecessor? Because let me tell you this pure and simple. A lot of people, and she's not been indicted by any court, please don't quote me. A lot of people feel there's been mismanagement of funds. One, the COVID-19 disbursements, another disbursement made by your predecessor thus far. That a lot of people say we cannot effectively, or we've not been able to account for the money. would you probe and review that? And better, in the midst of all of this, people are saying, you need a lot of money to run this your position because you need to alleviate poverty. You have to put money in the system. But with the gaping debt of 73 trillion, how realistic is it when you bring your demands to President Tinubu? Where is he going to get the wherewithal from to be able to fix this gaping hole? But those two very important questions. Would you probe your predecessor, one, on the spending? Would you ask to see the books, how things were spent? And secondly, would you probe the safety nets? And do you feel that the safety nets, there are issues with it? The register.
Okay, so like I told you very clearly, the register must be verified and updated. And where there are people who do not deserve to be there based on the criteria, they'll be taken off the register. And those who truly are poor by the criteria and deserve to be on the social register, they would be included. Remember, no one is to be left behind. What's most important is that we must work with the state governments and the local governments to be able to get a true social register for our country. I've listened to some of the presentations. We just started the different departments, units, and agency presentation in the ministry, and some of the things which I could pick out was the fact that some of the register was done truly. However, the involvement of the state government and in some cases the local government was not as robust as it should be. And so these are concerns for them at the state level and at the local government level. We'll revisit it and we'll update it. It's a work in progress, and we'll ensure that we have the right register that we can implement properly and hold people accountable that truly these are poor people and now they've been lifted out of poverty. That's number one. Number two, when you talk about the activities.
Okay, Betta, sorry to cut you in. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me, my dear. Please, I'm so sorry, ma, to cut you in, please. But hitherto, concerning that register, they have said, and that's why I asked the National Safety, the National Social Safety Office. They have said that the register was actually gotten from the local government areas, and the World Bank authenticated it. So is it that National Safety Office was wrong in its estimation in the first place? And that's why I asked that, would you probe? Is there something wrong with it in the first place? It's just for clarity, for the sake of Nigerians to know. That's just it. Because all you are saying now...
So we need to go back into it and look at it in details.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And verify that truly these people are those who we intend to reach. Right? It's a new administration. We do not underestimate the work done by World Bank and the Office of the National Safety Net. However, we need to be very critical on what we are doing because Nigerians are watching and people will hold us accountable. And of course, for the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he truly wants these interventions to get to those who sincerely need it. Some governors have raised concerns, and we must look into these concerns. And this is just the right way to go about it.
Thank you so much on that. The spending of the...
moving on to...
The spending of your predecessor, would you also probe that and have a look at that?
So we would have a look at all of that, all the programs that were done, what were the achievements, what were the challenges, how was it spent, and we will do our best to see that those challenges are being overcome as we go into improving and expanding on the social safety nets of our country. Like I said, history is important. It's going to direct, it's going to help inform our decisions for the present and for the future. And it's important for us to look back into the books.
Okay.
Absolutely. All right. So let's look at the humanitarian aspect of things. You talked about working with some international organizations, funding, and Rufai had highlighted the fact that we do have a funding challenge looking at the debt profile of the country. How would you hope to, generate funds, partner with organizations, address the needs of Nigerians currently?
So since you've dragged it this far, I'll just let one little bit out of the unveiling, which we'll be doing very soon, right? We are going to create a trust fund for emergency response and humanitarian response in the country, and of course create protocols for this response so that we can know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, and who are the people that should be beneficiaries from it. Now, we are not going to be depending on only government to be able to carry out poverty alleviation, humanitarian crisis response, and the rest of it. No, government has their part to play, and we are very, very confident that the president is committed to this, especially with funds that are being saved from the fuel subsidy removal. Now, beyond this, we are bringing private sector fully into the humanitarian and poverty alleviation space. We are bringing private sector fully into it. I'm sure you remember what happened during the COVID pandemic, where we had private sector coming fully in the name of COVID, and they were able to contribute as part of their social responsibilities to the interventions, programs, and what have you to fight the pandemic. We will deploy the same strategy to get private sector fully involved in humanitarian response, as well as the poverty alleviation programs and interventions which we want to carry out as government. Beyond this, we are working with partners. Yesterday, I had a meeting with the head of UNICEF, and they have promised to come into that space and support with over $270 million into that space, right? And several other partners are willing to come in. We're setting up a situation room. UNICEF will be working with us to set up a humanitarian situation room so that we can monitor, prevent, mitigate, and reintegrate people when they have humanitarian crisis back into society after handling them appropriately. So these are things we want to be monitoring as they go. We can try to avoid them and prevent them, and where it's impossible to do so, we can see how we immediately respond to it using a country-specific, context-specific protocol, and then of course at the end of the day reintegrate them back into society. So we're already working with partners. Several partners are engaging with me. Just yesterday, like I said, the head of UNICEF in the country and her team, they were in my office, and we had a robust engagement on their contributions to Nigeria. The World Bank is engaging, and of course you know about the safety net program of the World Bank and several other programs which are on the way already. We are going to expand on all of that. Beyond this, we are going to be engaging with other countries, other individuals who are running, of course, you know about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and several other foundations, even in the East, that are all fully involved in this humanitarian response. We'll be bringing all of them to a table, and we'll be donating into a central purse, which is going to be the trust fund. And these Nigerians can hold us accountable to respond to humanitarian issues that may arise, and equally respond to poverty alleviation issues in the country. Okay,
Dr. Edu, let's look at the issues here. One of the issues, let's look at it. Economists, those who are looking at the state of our economy, said that Nigeria's debt profile shows that we're owing over $73 trillion, so about over $70 trillion. I have traveled extensively in the southwest of Nigeria and in the northern part of Nigeria as well, because I grew up in the north. In the southwest of Nigeria, I've spent time in villages in Lagos, in Ogun, in Oyo, and Osun State over a period of time, because my family members have interest in farming. I have seen people in the southwest of Nigeria who are eager to take a job in a farm for between 5 to 10,000 naira. I repeat, 5 to 10,000 naira a month. They are happy to take that job. They're not talking of minimum wages. And I don't know what 5 to 10,000 naira will buy you in Nigeria of today. But they're so poor that they will take 5,000 naira a month. Please tell me, how much is the president putting on your table to help people like this that will accept 5,000 naira in a month, 30 days of working. What are you going to do today to make sure that their children don't die of hunger and that their children don't die of something as simple as malaria or cough?
Good. So what I can say very clearly at this point, when we say we're lifting people out of poverty, we want to ensure that no Nigerian is living under $1.95 a day, or with the new Alleviation, living under $2.15 per day. That is the target of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And like I told you very clearly, the president has asked us to quickly work with the key stakeholders, including development partners, to look at the social safety net, to look at the conditional cash transfers, to look at the various proposed interventions and come up with figures that can help Nigerians to thrive, can help their petty businesses to thrive, can help the micro businesses to thrive, to look at them working with the economic team. So these are what we're going to be reviewing within the next 2 to 3 weeks, after which we'll be coming up with exact figures on how much we will be making available to each individual or family in Nigeria, just as part of the poverty alleviation project.
Okay, better. Real quickly, your first task, part of many other tasks, will be to administer palliatives. What's your take as regards the madness going on with the sharing of the palliative? You can see the conundrum with people being hurt, being pushed around. Some can't even get anything. That's one. Number two, another important task coming up to you will be the $800 million loan that had been released before, that the president wanted to push out to the social register and he stopped. What's the conversation? Bring us up to speed as regards that money. And what would be your idea as regards pushing that money around?
So I think first, as it concerns the palliatives, we need to rework the logistics. In the past, I have been exposed to programs such as the immunization programs in Cross River State and in other places around the country where we have to take healthcare to people's doorstep, immunize people at their doorstep. I think the aspect of having people come together or come to one particular location to pick up their palliatives is not really very helpful. In my own, of course, for us, we will think that it will be better off to deliver this, improve on the logistics, and deliver it to their doorstep where they live. That way, they can sign off on it, and you are sure that these families have received it. Of course, technology can tell exactly where a person is, where he's delivering, using the GPS and the rest of it to really identify if this has been delivered to this location.
How are you going to do this? How? Because technology is nebulous. How precisely are you going to ensure that they deliver at the doorsteps of people where we don't have accurate numbering system in homes in Nigeria and streets? You can get to the street and have number 21 and number 44 at the back, at the front. So how do we do it? How?
Okay, like I said, it's a GPS thing. It's not just about the numbering. So from the GPS, there are many applications that can be used to identify where a person is and if it has been delivered to a particular places. Of course, we have all the logistic companies that use all of these applications. We can deploy them. That's why we said private sector collaboration. We can deploy all of this. In the past, we used to have the ODK. So if I come to this house to give immunization, they can be able to know whether I have arrived at this location using the GPS and if I have delivered that immunization before I leave. So all of this will be deployed into the system where we can categorically say yes. It might not be 100%, but we can categorically say yes, at least 98% of the items meant for people have been delivered to their location. Then talking, of course, about the $800 million, I think the first point for us, like we have clearly said, the president has called for a clear review, after which we will give our recommendations to the president, and then he can take the final decisions, working with the Federal Executive Council to say, okay, yes, we are good to go, and these are the people who would be receiving these funds, for Nigerians to know. The main point is that it must be done in an accountable manner, and it must be given to the right people who are truly poor and need to be subsidized and taken out of poverty.
Thank you for saying that. Accountability, transparency, two tenets you have said you will work under, and we wish you all the best. 133 million Nigerians who are living in multidimensional poverty depending on the success of your ministry. And so we hope that your plans will be successful. Thank you very much, Dr. Betta Edu, for joining us this morning on The Morning Show.